bien, invitamos al resto del panel, al señor Boris Aljaro, al señor Luis Peralta, a Felipe Silva, nuestro moderador, y a Iván Marambio, por favor, a que se integren al panel.
I didn't study journalism, and I am not an entertainer, but we'll see how this is going to work out. So we'll start with Ricardo. As an experience, I would like to know how do you develop relationships with the industry, how you first started to repeat this in other destination points, because you gave this fantasy name, and we have different challenges at the industry in order to find a solution for different destinations that have longer transit challenges. Can you hear me? Well, additionally to these ships to the East Coast, we also have the ships for the other coasts where we send the blueberries. But we think that the cold storage ship is very suitable in order to meet those needs, that is to say, a direct and rapid service. So I think that we should examine the markets that can be explored and see the capacity we have to develop those services. We are open to that kind of evaluations. And concerning now the industry, I would say that they had a very good experience because the coordination was straightforward. We didn't have problems, and the information we received compared to the real bulk loaded was within the normal margins of time. So we are fully satisfied with this experience, and I don't see more problems to evaluate other services where this kind of transportation can be useful. Many companies today, or the carriers, are giving services to the ports in Florida. I don't know if yourself or Ricardo can tell us the solutions you envisage for destinations where the service is not given, and to allow the rapid arrival to those ports. The idea is to design all of that and to see how this is going to have an implication on the itineraries and to see the useful availability in order to provide those services. I think it is feasible that a cold storage ship can get those other points. Well, in our particular case, we developed or designed a service that could render competitive not only the group of Chilean customers, but the whole set of Chilean exporters. And this is the line I represent, SMA, and we were trying to leverage the competitiveness of the Chilean customers. We know the destination has not been well served by the carriers. Why it has not been served appropriately? Well, as my colleague was saying here, is based on the design, because there are some carrier lines that didn't consider that as a potential. Only for the western coast of South America and other destinations. So we now think that this could be rendered more competitive, and we started to operate in the mid of the last season, and we were surprised by the support of the customers and the results they had from this service. And the idea is to continue to be this helpful for the Chilean customer and provide a direct service. Now, concerning the infrastructure, two questions. And for Peru also, they are on the verge to do a very significant investment. And How are we doing in terms of port capacity?
We think that infrastructure is not the most relevant issue today. Each topic has to be dealt in the short term. Infrastructure is a long term issue that has different pathways, and we do not have to mixed get things mixed, because to think in the long term is thinking about the infrastructure we need into 2030 or 2035. Nowadays, we believe that we do not lack capacity in terms of maritime transportation. In the San Antonio port, the expansion of the Valparaiso port and the diversification of ports are measures that are needed for fruit. Diversification of ports is being carried out quite rapidly. We have been able to count on Coronel this season. We had a misfortune in Ventana. It was able to carry out fruit export operations, but there was a fire there. This was really a misfortune. We are exploring with Miken. So in terms of capacity, we need to look at that as such, as what it is, to what we need in the long term. We should not forget about it. However, logistics involves many other players. We need to send out a clear message, a precise, accurate, concrete message. And infrastructure is precisely the opposite. There are environmental issues, like you've said. I think that the current port has like 2,900 comments. So we need to continue to make progress with the necessary time. However, logistics as such depends more on coordination, bureaucracy, and things that can be done today. In terms of SAG services, a few years ago we had, especially for grapes, there was some delay because of the capacity of spraying the fruit in the destination, the final destination. Now, the USDA SAG agreements, how is SAG prepared to face more inspections here in Chile or in areas in which the fruit doesn't have to be sprayed to reach the American market? I would set a difference here. Technical capacity, the SAG's technical capacity is completely up to the task. That's no issue. However, we lack funding, human resources, better payment. It is difficult to fund that because the state is the one that needs to finance the agency. We don't want them to provide services free of charge, of course, but the funding must come from the state. And there we have issues. We are working on proposals for the Ministry of Finance to really include specific allocations for the SAG to strengthen the agency. Of course, with everything that is going on with the new system, the pests and the fly fruit, or the fruit flies, and this is something that we all need to work together as a country. Like I mentioned, SAG has a incredible reputation worldwide, and this is something that Chile must value and continue to build. Chile used to be a safe fruit haven, but it hasn't been the case for a while now. We need a strong SAG. And we deal with this in terms of plant safety. issue. But I think that this is an outdated term, and it really doesn't address the importance of the issue. We were in New Zealand seeing what they do for apples and kiwis, and their agency, their plant health safety agency, they call this biosecurity. There is an example from Mexico as well. They have a different term. I don't recall that, but it's like something bioterrorism or something, which really raises the issue to a new level of importance, because plant health and safety is something that has become too common, and it's something that needs more attention and to be worked at a different level. I'll use Boris's words. Maersk is very focused on integrated services. So how does it come into play when it comes to services provided by the industry? Well, thank you for the question. Maersk has been implementing an integration strategy for 4 years now. It started in the end of 2019, and the goal was to really set a difference and to differentiate the company vis-a-vis the different challenges in the industry for blueberries and cherries, and globally speaking. The goal is to solve or to discuss the issues faced by the industry and see how we can contribute. We are working on this concept, logistics integration. We are talking to our customers to see where the problems lie. Maersk is trying to understand the problem, and based on that, provide logistics integrated solutions. What are the critical points you see in the chain? Looking at integrated systems, what are the main critical aspects? Well, depending on the industry, there are complex issues regarding transportation. There are failures in infrastructure, packing and refrigeration. 2022 was a complex year for blueberries and avocados and other crops. It was a very tough year in terms of outcomes. And today, innovation, technology is something that must be used, and I think we can contribute with that because it is increasingly necessary. For those years that are not so good, they really throw the investment plans backwards. Another issue is visibility of the logistics chain. It is incredible, and it's really helpful when the client knows when their cargo and their shipments is arriving and have that visibility. Also, visibility of destination services. Last year there were some problems in the destinations, and I think that we must look into that and come up with solutions. So those are the main points that I see as alternatives. Well, thanks to cherries, we are now reaching the Far East in 22 days with the Cherry Express. But Europe is a market in which more than 30% of that receives more than 30% of Chile's volumes. So after the pandemic, how has it improved? Because of course we faced very important delays at that time. So Ricardo, what is in your view, the solutions to reach the transit times that we had a few years back? Today we are taking 25 days. Well, the lines are facing basically challenges regarding sustainability. They will not improve given issues in sustainability, and this is a shipment challenge for all the shipping industry globally. The important thing that we must keep in mind is what players are once again betting on Chilean fruit in those markets. I think that Chile has very good connectivity with the north of Europe, differently from other players that are also supplying northern Europe, because the winter in Europe brings about issues just like Chile. And we trust also the customers in the Mediterranean region. The port of Messina is also becoming a great distribution center in Europe, a hub. So more than a challenge, today the main challenge is sustainability. And lines that are historically available for Chile should remain available, and that's the real challenge. So how does Maersk see services to Europe? How do you see that? Well, I agree with what was said just before. The transit times will not improve in the next season or in the short term, but we are looking into technology investments so that exporters can provide longer shelf lives for the fruit to really improve the logistics and the final destination, to provide traceability. We're now working on live control of real-time control, remote control of containers in terms of moisture and temperature. So we are investing in technology in such way that this chain is better controlled. In terms of technology, Ivan, we were recently discussing what are the possibilities of avoiding or to complement the once again that in terms of technology and new products that we are studying and promoting, and through EFF, radiation is a technology that can be used for that. I don't know if you are aware of that, but just as an example, besides the technology used by the retailers that purchase radiated mango, they changed the logo. The radiated fruit comes with the green logo, with the concept that this is a technique that is not harmful to people or the environment. There are some companies willing to invest in radiation centers in the east coast of the United States. So this is an alternative that is quite viable, which is building such center is more or less an investment of $15 million and 18 months of work, which is something that is not so unfeasible for us. And we're also looking at into a new product, maybe not a new product, but a product that has been studied for quite some time, which is called e-fume. What it allows us to spray the fruit right after it is harvested at its source, taking advantage of the temperature of the fruit at that time. We wouldn't have to raise the temperature once it gets to its destination. That's an alternative that we are very keen and also for organic fruit. So this is what it looks like. The deadline was March 31st, but it's not available, but it should be available in the future.
We need this badly because bromide maybe will not be authorized anymore. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing your experience. As a conclusion now, or as a tip for the future, transits translate into a damage sometimes and the trust that is built around the product, and we need all these logistic transportation that will allow to reach the destination port as soon as possible. And now you are comparing this to the situation of other origins. And that's why we need the support and to work jointly to come up with different solutions at the level of the industry. And so we are fully thankful for that. Thank you. Just a second before you go. We have a few minutes, and in case there is someone who would like to ask a question, we have still time for at least one question. Maybe it would be interesting to have an overview about the prices, costs for the freights. I know it's difficult, but we saw with some concern what the cherry industry had to pay back in 22. And the hike in the prices was unexpected, and we would like to know if this situation will persist, because the service should be optimum, but the price also affordable. So if you can answer that question, please. I could make a comment because this is a very good question. And obviously, this has been an important argument of the discussion. In the discussion, we saw the hike of costs since 2018. And we would say that now there is a standardization for this increase. On my opinion, we think that this trend should continue persist in the next season. So I can say that the conditions should prevail. That's what I have as a comment. And I would like to support what Boris is saying, because we think that everything is being normalized now, and I think this is positive for all the players. Logistics in general terms today is much more normalized, and we should not have surprises. At least there is a pandemic like the COVID, and we should also observe the positive side of this, that there are more options in the market. And this is helpful for the exporter. The idea is to see what the added values are. For example, if we take again the issue of sustainability, I think it's very important to see how sustainable the shipping companies are and how this can be transferred to the customer in markets that are very particular, where eco-friendly operations are well regarded. And we have to see what is the added value that can be incorporated and how the exporters can be more competitive. On my hand, I have to speak about the cold storage ship. The indicators are showing that the rates should be normalized and go down. We see that the prices are decreasing, but I think it's important to point out that there were some increases in the costs on also port costs, port fees, and therefore they should also tend to decrease because I know that the shipping transportation increase the cost, but also the different amorage fees and so on. So I think that the freight fees are going down, but I hope that the fees of port fees will be stabilized too. We as ASOEX highly value what you have commented here. Maybe this is a kind of compromising, but at least we have the intention to do so. I would urge the shipping industry, the producers, the exporters to prevent what happened the last season. That is to say, 1 week before starting the loading, we saw the surprise, the increasing of costs, as a country cannot afford that because we need to envisage this well in advance, and we need to work jointly. So we would urge people to do so vis-a-vis the next coming season. Thank you, Ivan. Some other and a round of applause for this panel, please. And I would like to ask for a special applause for Felipe Silva because moderating is a very difficult experience and he did it very well. So a special ovation for him.